My name is Mickey Thompson, and I'm here at the Mickey auction in Kissimmee, Florida, with the Challenger 2, a car that we ran in 2018 and became the fastest record-setting piston-powered wheel-driven car in the world. So this is it. It was built in 1968 by my dad, Mickey Thompson, and a group of California hot rodders and drag racers. It's 32 foot long. It's 36 inches wide in the front, about 25 inches tall. 2 engines, has 2 Hemi engines in it, and fuel injected on nitromethane, running about 87%. It's 4-wheel drive. It has a whole lot of horsepower. So with the 2 engine, with the 2 Hemis, we're making about 3,000 horsepower per engine. And the front engine drives the front wheels, the rear engine drives the rear wheels, and otherwise, it's in the Streamliner line, 2 parachutes to stop it. It's pretty exciting to be able to run this car after, when we did set the record in 2018, the car was 50 years old. So that was, to be able to run a 50-year-old car and get the record. And right here is AA is the engine size, and that's anything over 500 cubic inches. And then the FS is fuel Streamliner. So to get the record and to be the fastest wheel-driven car, piston-powered wheel-driven car, I mean, very, very exciting for me. It was exciting to take this record and bring it to the family name. My dad went 406 miles an hour in 1960 with a 4-engine Pontiac Streamliner, but he didn't back it up with a return run. And as George Poteet told me when I first started this, he said, "Dan," he says, "you don't know how hard that second run is." And after 8 years of running, I totally understood what George was talking about. So the canopy, it comes off and it folds forward, and that's the way I get in the car. And it just comes off with a couple of handles, up and out, up. So we have a race pack instrument cluster, and it gives you data, it gives you oil pressure. There's no water in these engines, so you don't have to worry about any kind of water temperatures or anything. It actually does have a GPS in there, but I never looked down long enough to see what that says. On this left side, where these are the fuel pumps for the number 1 engine is the front engine, number 2 is the rear engine. Down here we have the starter buttons. And right, engine 1, engine 2. This air is for air that we put inside the helmet, and it's just it's scuba air. So that goes in, and then on the other side are the magnetos, and the red handle is the handbrake. It's got a throttle pedal and a clutch pedal, and then the brake is all used by hand. This is a fire suppression system. One pull of that, and it sets off fire bottles in the driver's compartment, in the front engine, and in the rear engine. So driving a Bonneville car is totally different than anything else I'd ever driven, and I've driven sports cars, and I've driven everything but drag racing cars, and most everything that I learned at Bonneville and at other races does not apply at Bonneville. So the one thing that in this particular situation, I don't know how other people's cars react, but you don't fight this car. You kind of let this car have its head, and you drive it kind of where it wants to go, and you don't wrestle with it. And I think quick hands, like every kind of racing, quick hands is always the most important thing. Quick hands at Bonneville typically will get you in more trouble than not. So we kind of let it have its head, kind of let it float. You still drive it, you drive the heck out of it. I mean, you watching the steering, you do it, but you don't fight the car. At our last run that we ran 450 mile an hour through the 5th mile, at the 4 1/3 mark, the car got very, very sideways. We got a wind gust coming in from about 12 mile an hour wind gust, and it got very sideways. We drove that, and we're fortunate enough to save it. This is driving the car at Bonneville and doing the whole project was really difficult. Took 8 years to do that whole project. Selling this car next Saturday at Kissimmee is going to be way harder than it was to drive it or do the whole thing. To get rid of something that you've lived with for 8 years and spent all your time with and basically 7 days a week doing, that's going to be really, really difficult. But the hopes is it's going to go to somebody that's going to display it. People will still be able to see it, and and we'll go from there. And then we'll see what happens. Maybe if we can find a sponsor, a good sponsor, we'll build another one. Try to go back, see if we can go faster.